Welcome back to Fuzzlab. Today is going to be a different episode, Hacking for Fun with Petey. It's not a project or I'm going to be talking about cordless drill, specifically my Ryobi 18-volt cordless drill. The tool I can't live without. I guess if you get down to it, a Phillips screwdriver, my El Cheapo soldering iron with the massive tip, or, a hammer, my handy mini chopping axe. These tools I use all the time. And I do have an assortment of corded and cordless little drill guides and stuff like that. I got this other contraption I'm going to show you in a minute. But the tool I always come back to and utilize the most is the Ryobi 18-volt cordless drill. Brand name doesn't really matter. Ryobi's kind of a little bit more affordable. It's not the top of the line stuff. It's not the most fantastic. But if you're working with a lower power, like a generic kind of more of a cordless screwdriver type drill, or you got Grandpa's old Black & Decker, the big chrome, it looks like the robot thing that healed Luke in Empire, that type of drill with the big Frankenstein switch on the side. You're going to want to get yourself an 18-volt cordless drill. You'll use this thing for everything. Use it for picking boogies, wiping, everything. It's a fantastic tool. Now, I guess I should start at the beginning. There goes an hour and a half. Like 15 years ago, 14 years ago maybe, I ended up getting a job through my older brother Eric. Thank you very much, Eric. That was quite a job. But anyway, he got me this job. We were like kind of like aerial linemen for AT&T. Now we did work for AT&T. It was subcontractor, but the idea was it's like a 70-pound ladder, 30 pounds of tools, 30 pounds of equipment, and going up and down telephone poles, chopping out the old, for cable TV, the electronic boxes where it breaks from the big cable down to the little ones that go into your house. The old equipment didn't pass signal for broadband, and they had, broadband internet for the cable like Comcast, so they had to upgrade everything. So I did that for a while till the work dried up, and it was a crazy job. It was nuts. My record was, I think I did like 54 ground locations one day. And then like cold splicing, and then I did 18 aerial on foot, 18 telephone poles. It was just nuts, but there was a lot of drinking and drugging going on at that place. The boss was kind of a cokehead. You could make a lot of money fast, but then you'd really starve, and it was a horrible. It was like kind of like going to combat, that job. I remember a buddy of mine was a bad guy and alcoholic, and he wanted me to ask about getting him a job, and I didn't want it, but I'm an honest person, so I go up to the boss and I said, listen, this friend of mine, he's bad news, SoCo, and he wants me to ask if there's any way he could come in and apply for a job. And so my boss looks at me, and I couldn't have made it clear that I was just doing this just out of lip service for my friend. My boss looks me in the eye and he says, well, let me ask you this. Does he have a high school diploma? I said, no. He says, does he have a driver's license? I said, no. He said, does he have a drug or alcohol problem? I said, yeah. He goes, bring him in. So, back to reality here. The Ryobi cordless drill. I guess, before I move on to that, I want to just break off on the side and show you this thing that I built, because it's kind of a cool idea, and it fits in with the spirit of this video. So, check this out. So, what we're looking at here is this contraption that I threw together I like to call my hobby grinder. Now, if you've really been paying attention and following along, watching all these things, which, well, probably only my wife and kids. Hi, Gomp. Hi, Queek. Hi, Date. But anyway, yeah, sometimes I talk about this old German guy, and he gave me this. I forget. It's a Milwaukee. I think it's a 14.4 battery and the charger. And then I garbage picked this drill. So what I did, there's a couple handles on here, and then there's a switch. So the idea is that I can take this thing wherever I want. It runs off the battery, but most of the time I plug it in and run it. I had it unplugged for a while. I've been running this light when I shoot videos, so it's undercharged right now. But you can see I have all these grinder bits, and there's some wire wheels that are back here. I haven't really used those for a while. But that's my hobby grinder, and what I did here, it's really, you're really not supposed to do this, but what I've done is I've taken all my old power tools, that the cordless battery rechargeable stuff, that the batteries have died, and I just chopped in a length of wire, and then I cut an old lamp cord onto it. So this isn't 110 volts coming out of here, it's 14.5 volts DC. So you really don't want to let anyone near these things, because if they plug them into 110 and fire this thing up, it's going to explode. There's going to be a lot of shrapnel. But this is a neat feature about this device, is like this cordless screwdriver is supposed to run off like 3 volts or something, and it doesn't really work very well. But if you slam it with 15 volts, it looks like an Indy 500 tool. So yeah, you can see I got a lot of stuff hooked up here. And I just kind of throw all this stuff back in here, and then what's nice about it is, you know, I can put a pre-drill bit on one of them, and then I can put a Phillips bit, and then like a spade bit or whatever those things are called. And when I'm building stuff, because I like to countersink my screws, I don't have to keep changing drills. And then when I'm done, there you go. You got this. This is like a 7.2 volt dust buster that doesn't really work very well, but once again, slam it with 14 and now it really does its job very well. So that's the homemade hobby grinder. Cool little device. Back to the point of the video here, the Ryobi cordless drill. Yeah, I was doing that cable job, and the boss had told me, oh well, you don't need the 18 volt drill right away, you can get away with a 14. And so I listened to him. I went and I bought it, and that drill lasted me a little while. I forget what happened, but honestly, the difference between the 14 and the 18 is a lot as far as performance goes. It just doesn't cut the mustard. So if you're going to try to save a couple bucks and get a 12 volt or, you know, a 14, don't do it. Spend the extra money and get. I mean, when I bought my kit, I think it was 100 or 150, and it came with everything. I got a sawzall. I got a real small circular saw for small stuff, and I use that all the time too. And then flashlight, a real nice, super bright flashlight. Came with a charger and 2 batteries. Now, over the years, what I've done is, you know, like here's a battery. I'm not going to show you a charger. I've got 3 chargers at this point. I've got 1 lithium-ion battery, which I can't tell you how fantastic the lithium-ion. This is the way to go. They're a lot more money. Came with a different charger, so it's like a lime green charger. I got a black one, a gray one. Thanks, Eric. Eric gave me one of his extra chargers. I blew a fuse on one. I don't know how that happened. I got to pop a new fuse in it. But what I've been doing is I got some generic batteries. These were 15 bucks. If you open up the battery after they stop taking a charge, you can take other NiCad cells. There's a heat sensor in there to make sure it doesn't overheat. So you've got to it's a little bit of surgery, but you can chop out the old cells. You go through and test them all, and usually there'll be 1 to 4 defective dead cells in the whole lot. Because what's inside of here, they look like C batteries about that size, and they got paper wrapped around them, and there's printing on it. And those are all wired up in series, and then at the top there's this little sensor for overheating. That's the 3rd connector here, so that the charger knows when it gets too hot, and it throttles the amperage that goes to charging it, so there isn't a fire. Now, I have hacked other batteries. You know, I get cheap stuff. I get garbage pick stuff like that. I showed you that dust buster that had like a few of those cells in there, and I put those in a little battery amp. I like to reuse stuff and do it on the cheap. So I've been able to bring a lot of these batteries back to life and extend the life scale of them. I got some cheap stuff that was new, and I reused those cells. I garbage picked a whole bunch of batteries and took those apart, and sure enough, there was a few dead cells in each battery. And I garbage picked a whole set of batteries, like 2 or 3, that they were all good. The tool must have broke, and the guy saved them for a while, and then, threw them out. So those, again, they all went into here. So I've had this drill since, 1998, 1999, and I never really bought batteries. I got this one used at Salvation Army with the charger for like $350. This is a great deal. And like I said, I really like the product. I use it all the time. It's got enough torque and power for what I like to do. Now the other day, I dropped one when I was splicing. It was like February or something, and I'm up on this real high pole, and I dropped the drill and it shattered, the case shattered. Obviously, if it's 16 below, 30 below with wind chill or whatever it was, and you drop the thing from 20, 25 feet in the air, which I dropped it a lot, and nothing ever happened to it, but it landed on concrete and it was cold, so it did crack the case, which you can buy replacement cases, but I just bought a new drill. I was making enough money, and I just like a knucklehead, I ran to Home Depot and got it to finish the job. So I've had really good success rates with these. The current one that I'm using now, I've had since, I'm guessing, around 2001 was when, somewhere around that, maybe a little before, actually probably 2000 is when I bought the one that I have now, which is the 18 volt. This is my unit right now. It's disassembled. And we're going to get into what happened in detail here. Here's like the chuck piece. That's for the torque setting. This goes back and forth when it's properly functioning. And here's our switching unit. These aren't available anymore, and you can't get, I don't think you can get the motor. I couldn't find it. And then there's a MOSFET in here, and I think that's maybe blown out on my unit. What happened was, I was in the middle, I was almost done with my daughter's, I'm building a battery amp for my kid for the woods, and I'm ripping apart a microcube and using the guts from that to feed like a 50-watt power amp module that runs off a 12-volt sealed lead acid battery. So I was using the drill a lot. I was modifying this speaker box to take 2 speakers and cutting boards and everything, and all of a sudden I was chucking it. I had just used it with a spade bit, whatever those things are called. I suppose I should show you what I'm talking about. So I'm chucking this spade bit out of there. I just used it, and I imagine that this spade bit does put a lot of pressure on the unit. It's probably a high torque application. But I was using that, and I cut a hole all the way through the unit for the big volume knob, and the amp module sits in there, and I wanted you to be able to grab onto that through the wood. Anyway, I go to chuck the thing, and all of a sudden, smoke out. It smokes out, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, my heart just sank. It's like any other tool but this, and now. So, yeah, I finished it up. I used corded drill, and I finished the project up, and I just threw it over on my desk, and I was like kind of in denial about it. I was working on my R2-D2 video, and then I came in here the other day because while I was doing the R2-D2 video, I was shrinking down the images for the subliminal section, the Walt Disney Tobacco R2-D2 public service announcement. I put subliminals in there, and I was shrinking the pictures down as tiny as they go and moving them, and all of a sudden, bang, snap, one of the aluminum capacitors blew up in my video card. So, yeah, lately it hasn't been good in Fuzz Lab. When everything you own has been kind of tampered with, sometimes you'll run into a streak of bad luck, which is just fate. Anyway, yeah, I got some aluminum capacitors coming off eBay real cheap, and I've already fixed that card once. Those cards are notorious for popping caps, so I come in here because the video card blew. I couldn't edit anymore, and I just started ripping into this thing, and I wasn't getting, I tried using clips and going straight in off the battery onto the motor, and it spun a little bit, but these clips got like molten hot. like these started smoking. I was like, holy cow, something's going on here. So I took it in the kitchen, and one of the systems I like to utilize here in Fuzz Lab is Zippo lighter bottles. I've got paint thinner in this one and then rubbing alcohol in here. So I doused the motor down with thinner and I spun it by hand, and this like tar was like black tar, like a good amount, you know, like 3 tablespoons full came out. So I kept flushing it with that, and then I cleaned it out with this. I brought it back in here, and it was like when I would apply power to it, if I spun it, it would jump and spin a little bit. So then I took a toothpick, a Q-tip, and I went in at an angle. There's little vents on the side of the bottom of the motor. I went in there, you know, spit on it a little bit. I went in there and I would like try to clean the area where the brushes make contact. And sure enough, that brought it back to life. The Q-tip was black when I pulled that out. So I kept doing that till the Q-tip was, you know, not so much schmutz on it. And then it turns out that I had fried out this MOSFET here. So I took that real crappy red one that I held up. That had a MOSFET in it. It was a different part number. I cut that in, nothing. When I bypass the MOSFET in here, I can get it to work. But so I went on eBay, and I found the MOSFET for $2 with free shipping. So it was $2.96. So I probably could have got it somewhere else, but then I would have had to do a whole big order, and then it takes me a long time. So I just bit the bullet and ordered it. And then I'm like, you know, let me see if Ryobi has the parts available. So I typed the model number for this drill in, and it comes up. Here you go. Fire! Fire, fire, fire! So yeah, the thing is bad news, and I'm not exactly sure when I bought mine. It says, you know, as you can see, it says, you know, Home Depot and between this period of time. So anyway, I called them up this morning, and I gave them the serial number, and sure enough, it's one of the recalled units. I told them what happened. I said, smoke out, you know, and he said that FedEx, I'm going to box it up, and like in a week and 3 days, week and 4 days, FedEx is going to be here, pick it up, and I'm going to get a new unit. And from what I read on the forums, it's actually the units they send out as an updated model with a one-hand chuck. So instead of, and that's fantastic, because I'm always got my hands full, and I'll ask one of my helpers, you know, my cat or whoever is in the room, I'll go, hey, can you, and nobody can figure out how to chuck the thing. You're like, I can't do it, and oh, come on, guys, okay? 2 hands, you know, you just, it's like opening a jar of mail. You know, it's not that hard to do, okay? Come on, please. This is for my helpers. Everyone else ignore this. I'm normally not this rude to my family. It's much worse. Anyway, the new one's coming with the one-hand chuck. It's supposed to have a little more torque, a little nicer. So, hats off to Ryobi, standing behind their product. I absolutely love the thing. If you don't have a cordless drill and you got a little bit of money to spend on tools, highly recommended. And if you can get that kit on a deal, I mean, I don't really use a flashlight so much, just because I'm so cheap. I've got other things rigged up for flashlights, but I use, you know, the Sawzall and the little rip saw. I use everything in that kit all the time. I got an incredible amount of lifespan out of it. I would say if you are going to invest in one of these, that you should attempt to clean it often, you know, figure out maybe pouring solvent through it like I did. I really think it's okay to do. I really do. I mean, I dried mine out after the solvent ran through it. I put it in my little toaster oven on like 110 degrees for like about 10 minutes, you know. But I don't think you could hit it with a hairdryer. I don't think it's really bad to do, running what I ran through there, even up to spraying brake cleaner on it. You know, you want to do that outside. You don't want to breathe any of that, wear a mask, but that's the way you clean these things. And as long as you keep them clean, and like with this particular unit, it did have a fault and it did fail, and so hallelujah that this worked out. I mean, I wasted a little bit of time researching, and I ordered the part through eBay like a complete knucklehead. You know, sometimes when you're doing this type of stuff, you get blind. You know, you think automatically, like, you can fix everything and you don't have to rely on anybody. Like, it never dawned on me that, hey, the thing smoked out. There might be a recall on it. And there was. So, you know, it's often when I build something and it doesn't work, immediately I start freaking out and beating myself up and thinking, well, I screwed something up. What did I do wrong? And looking at all my soldering and freaking out. And then I start unsoldering. And then it's like, I didn't plug it in. That's why it's not working. You didn't turn it on. The amp is off. You know, it's always something stupid like that. So this is a lesson to everybody. If you're into this stuff, or if you're an engineer, you know, well, if you're an engineer, I don't know what you're doing watching this, but Google first. Always, always. I mean, it's a fantastic tool we have available. If you don't like Google, you don't like Big Brother watching you, you know, get DuckDuckGo or one of the other a little bit more privacy-involved search engines. So thank you very much for joining me with my long extended rant about cordless drills. I'm sure there's a lot other better models out there than Ryobi. I'm sure I got the worst one, and that was proven because it burst into flames in my hand. Once again, everything I do here is wrong. Don't listen to me. I'm a goof. Do everything. Whatever I do, do not do that. So if you own a better unit, that's fantastic. I'm really happy for you for being able to afford the top of the line stuff. Me, I'm cheap, and if it comes out of a dumpster, that's what's good for me. So, without further ado, take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. Keep on hacking.